Dark Souls 2 is often considered the black sheep of the Souls series. While some die-hard fans will defend it, many players agree that it's the weakest entry in the franchise. But why? What makes Dark Souls 2 feel so off compared to Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, or even other Souls-likes like Bloodborne or Elden Ring? Today, we're breaking down exactly what went wrong with Dark Souls 2 and why it just doesn't live up to the rest of From Software's legendary lineup. One of the biggest reasons Dark Souls 2 falls short is its level design. In Dark Souls 1, the world is intricately connected. Firelink Shrine links to multiple areas naturally, and verticality plays a huge role in exploration. But in Dark Souls 2, the world feels disjointed, like a series of loosely connected zones instead of a cohesive land. Take this infamous example. You climb a windmill at Earthen Peak, and at the top, you find an elevator. Seems normal, right? But somehow, this elevator takes you up to a giant lava castle, Iron Keep. How does that even make sense? The transition feels lazy and breaks immersion. Compare that to Dark Souls 1, where each new area seamlessly flows into the next, making Lordran feel alive and interconnected. Then there's the combat. If you've played Dark Souls 1 or 3, you probably notice something feels off about Dark Souls 2. That's because it has a floaty, sluggish movement system that makes every action feel less precise. The reason? Dark Souls 2 added the adaptability stat, which affects how fast you recover from actions and how many invincibility frames you have when rolling. The problem is, the game never properly explains this, so new players often get frustrated, thinking dodging just doesn't work right. And then there's the hitboxes. Dark Souls 2 is infamous for its janky hit detection, with attacks that hit you even when they clearly miss. Boss fights are the highlight of any Souls game, but in Dark Souls 2, many of them feel uninspired or even lazy. The game leans too hard on fights that are just a bunch of enemies at once, rather than unique, well-designed encounters. Take Prowling Magus in Congregation, it's just a priest and some minions, or Twin Dragon Riders, which is literally just one Dragon Rider again, but now there's two of them. Then you've got fights like Royal Rat Vanguard, which is just a horde of rats. Compare these to the incredible boss fights in Dark Souls 3 or Bloodborne, and the difference is clear. If you love Dark Souls PvP, then Dark Souls 2 might drive you insane. The biggest issue? Soul memory. Instead of matchmaking based on level, the game matches you based on total souls collected, meaning if you co-op too much or grind, you'll get placed against over-leveled opponents. This ruins balance and makes PvP frustrating for anyone who just wants a fair fight. And then there's hit detection, lag, and phantom range. Let's just say PvP in Dark Souls 2 is not its strong suit. So, why did Dark Souls 2 end up so different? The answer is simple. Miyazaki wasn't directing this one. Instead, development was led by Yui Tanimura, while Miyazaki was busy working on Bloodborne. And it shows, many of the design choices in Dark Souls 2 feel out of place compared to the rest of the series. That's not to say Dark Souls 2 is a bad game. It still has great ideas, solid DLC, and tons of build variety. But when compared to Dark Souls 1, 3, or Bloodborne, it just doesn't hold up. So, is Dark Souls 2 the worst Souls game? For many, yes. Its level design, combat, bosses, and mechanics just don't match the brilliance of its predecessors or successors. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Do you love Dark Souls 2? Or do you agree that it's the weakest in the series? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Soulsborne content. And as always, stay hollow.